Today we're talking about the differences between mono and stereo records. Hey friends, welcome back. So if you've been collecting records for a while, you've probably noticed a few mono records here and there, but what exactly is a mono record and how does it compare to a stereo record? Today we're going to find out. But real quick, today's song of the day is Strawberry Fields Forever by the Beatles. And if you have a suggestion for a song of the day as well, post it in the comments down below and you could see it in a future video. Alright, so let's start from the beginning. Monaural sound, or mono for short, is sound that only uses one audio channel and is meant to be played from only one position. For example, a gramophone from 1904 with one horn, or a radio from 1938 with one speaker. So as you can tell from these two examples, mono has been around since the earliest days of recorded sound. Everything from the wax cylinders of the 1890s to the shellac records of the 1940s used mono. But then during the 1950s, stereo sound was introduced to the world. And stereo uses two separate audio channels and is meant to be played with two speakers. So now we have a sound that's much more three-dimensional because we can pan from right to left or vice versa, and we can place the drums on the left speaker, the vocals in the middle, and the guitar solo on the right speaker. So now we've got some options and also a much wider soundstage to play around with. Whereas with mono, we had to shove everything into one speaker. So basically, this is why mono was phased out in the 1970s and eventually replaced with stereo. And stereo has been the gold standard ever since. I mean, even our hearing is stereo. We have two ears. So getting back to vinyl, during the early 1960s, there were many bands that released their music in both formats. These bands included the Beatles, the Rascals, the Doors, the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Roy Orbison, Simon and Garfunkel, and Jimi Hendrix. However, by the end of that decade, everything was being pressed in stereo. And because of that shift, all of our modern turntable cartridges, receivers, and speakers of today are made for stereo as well. So basically, any record pressed after 1970 can be played with your current setup. But what about those earlier records? Can we play those? Well, it depends. If we're talking about the older shellac records of the 1940s, yes, we can play those, but with a special stylus. Something like the Grado 78E or the Ortophon 2M78. But the real question here is, can we play mono vinyl records with our current setup? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can. However, it will sound even better with a mono cartridge. Let me explain. So if you have a stereo cartridge like the Ortophon 2M Red, Blue, Black, or Bronze, or the Audio-Technica AT95E or AT-VM95E, then you can already play mono records because all stereo cartridges are backwards compatible with mono records. So stereo can do both, but mono cartridges can only play mono. So you may be wondering, if stereo does both, why do I even need a mono cartridge? Well, according to Mark Henshaw from YourSoundMatters.com, playing a mono record with a stereo cartridge will work, but it's going to have some issues with crosstalk, out-of-phase noise, tracking errors, and it will not produce the same audio signal in both channels. So essentially, it's not true mono. It's fake mono. A mono wannabe. But if you have a dedicated mono cartridge, it eliminates those problems and produces only one signal at the same level in both speakers, thereby giving us true mono. And we don't even have to unplug any speakers, just swap out the cartridge and you're good to go. So if you are thinking about picking up some mono records and you want a high quality mono cartridge to go with them, Ortophon makes one called the 2M Mono, which does give you that true mono signal in both speakers. So I'll put a link to it in the video description down below if you want to check it out for yourself. Now another question you may have is, which one sounds better, mono or stereo? Well, although stereo has a wider soundstage, when it comes to the sound quality, the number of audio channels doesn't really matter. What does matter is how the music was recorded, mixed, and mastered in the first place. If they used a busted microphone, it'll sound terrible in both formats, so it's kind of a moot point. But as I just mentioned, if you have a mono record and you want the best sound, you should be playing it with a mono cartridge. Now, another interesting fact about mono grooves is that they only go side to side, which is one channel, whereas stereo grooves go side to side and up and down. So essentially, that's how stereo is able to reproduce two channels in one groove. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm making this really complicated. But to be fair, this is a complicated subject. Alright, so last of all, the only record I currently own that's in mono is a 10-inch vinyl EP of B.B. King's The Thrill Is Gone, which was released on Record Store Day of 2015. So side A is in mono, and side B is in stereo. So it's a pretty unique record. And I've also been able to play it with my stereo cartridge, and it does sound pretty good. But that being said, if down the road I start collecting a lot more records in mono, I might just have to pick up a dedicated mono cartridge so I can hear the difference for myself. Now, what do you guys think about mono records? Do you like them? Do you own a lot of them? Do you have a mono cartridge? Or do you prefer stereo? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you love vinyl as much as I do, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notifications so you won't miss out on the new videos. And most importantly of all, friends, have a great day, stay safe out there, and keep spinning that vinyl. Also, this is a great song.